Imagine you're sitting across from someone who has the power to change your life with a single wire transfer. You've presented the perfect plan, the math is flawless, and the market timing is impeccable. But as you speak, that person isn't looking at your spreadsheet. They aren't even really listening to your projections. They are looking for something else, a silent psychological signature that you aren't even aware you're projecting. There is a brutal truth in the world of high-stakes wealth. Capital doesn't care about your potential. Capital is a coward. It is terrified of loss. Therefore, it doesn't invest in ideas. It invests in evidence of durability. Most people think they're being rejected because their idea isn't big enough, but the reality is much colder. They are being rejected because they haven't yet proven that they can survive the inevitable death valley of a project. They are projecting fragility while the world is looking for anti-fragility. What if the very things you are trying to hide, your past failures, your scars, and your struggles, are actually the only things that make you investable in the eyes of true wealth? There is a specific psychological mechanism called the Lindy Effect of Character, which suggests that the longer a person has survived chaos, the more likely they are to survive the next one. Investors aren't looking for the person who has never failed. They're looking for the person who has failed so many times that failure has lost its power over them. In this video, we are going to deconstruct the Investability Matrix. We are going to look at the 3 invisible signals that high-net-worth individuals use to judge your character in the first 60 seconds of a conversation. We'll explore the neuroscience of trust perception and why being too polished is actually a red flag that drives money away. By the end of this deep dive, you will know exactly how to audit your own reputation and behavior to stop chasing capital and start attracting it. You will learn how to turn your history into your greatest asset, ensuring that when the next big opportunity arrives, you aren't just ready to ask, you are the only logical person to say yes to. If you value deep dives into the human mind and the true mechanics of wealth, subscribe and join us. Let's talk about the mark you're leaving before you even open your mouth. We are raised in a culture that worships potential. From a young age, we are told we have so much of it. We treat potential like it's a form of currency, something we can trade for opportunity. But in the cold, hard reality of wealth accumulation, potential is worth exactly 0. In fact, to a seasoned investor or a high-level mentor, the word potential is often a code word for unproven risk. Think about the last time you tried to sell an idea, a project, or even yourself. You likely focused on what could happen. You painted a picture of a perfect future. You showed your talent, your passion, and your vision. And you probably felt frustrated when the person on the other side didn't match your enthusiasm. You felt like they didn't see you. But here is the micro-shock. Talent is the most common commodity on Earth. The world is filled with talented people who are broke, brilliant people who can't finish a project, and visionaries who fold the moment things get difficult. When you lead with your potential, you are inadvertently signaling that you haven't yet faced the fire. You're asking someone to bet on your intentions rather than your actions. There is a psychological gap we all face called the talent-to-trust gap. Most people try to bridge this gap with more polishing. They make their pitch deck prettier, their social media more curated, and their vocabulary more sophisticated. They try to look like they've already won. But to the trained eye, perfect looks like a mask. If you look like you've never struggled, it suggests you don't know how to handle a crisis. If your record is spotless, it's often a sign that you haven't been in the game long enough to get hit. The struggle you feel isn't because you aren't good enough. It's because you're trying to sell a future version of yourself to people who only deal in the present reality. You're asking for trust before you've provided the evidence that you can handle the weight of it. We mistake likability for investability, but in the high-stakes world of capital, being liked is a luxury. Being reliable is a necessity. The question isn't whether your idea is good. The question is what happens to you when the idea fails, because the wealthy know that every idea eventually hits a wall, and if they can't see the survivor in you, they won't put their capital near you.
If you want to understand who will succeed in the future, don't look at their resume, look at their scars. There is a concept in behavioral economics called the Lindy Effect. It suggests that for non-perishable things, like ideas or character, their future life expectancy is proportional to their current age. If a book has been in print for 50 years, it's likely to be in print for another 50. When we apply this to investability, it creates a shocking realization. A person who has survived 3 market crashes is mathematically more investable than a person who has just graduated top of their class from an Ivy League school. Why? Because the graduate is a black swan event waiting to happen. They haven't been tested. They are a fragile asset. The survivor, however, has proven they possess the Lindy Effect of Character. They have survived the variance of life, which makes their future performance predictable. Here is the microshock. Investors don't buy your win rate, they buy your recovery speed. Every professional knows that luck plays a role in the first win, but luck cannot explain someone who gets punched in the face by the economy and is back on their feet within 24 hours. That is a mechanical trait, not a lucky one. If you're finding value in these psychological deep dives into the mechanics of wealth, subscribe and join us. We focus on the traits the textbooks ignore. The second mechanism high-level capital looks for is costly signaling. In the animal kingdom, a peacock's tail is a costly signal. It's heavy, it's dangerous, and it takes a lot of energy to maintain. It proves the peacock is so strong it can survive despite the handicap. In the world of wealth, cheap signals are things like your pitch deck, your LinkedIn profile, or your verbal promises. Anyone can produce these. An expensive signal, however, is skin in the game. It is the 3 years you spent working on a project for no pay. It is the personal savings you liquidated to keep a vision alive. It is the bridge you burned to ensure there was no way back. Investors aren't looking for the person who wants to try an idea. They're looking for the person who is so committed that their own survival is tied to the project's success. Finally, they look for predictable variance. They want to see how you behave when things go wrong. Most people change their strategy, their tone, and their personality the moment they start losing. They become erratic. They become variable. An investable person is anti-fragile. They actually get better when things get chaotic. Their character is a constant, while the world is the variable. When an investor sees that your decision-making process remains identical whether you're up $1 million or down $1 million, they realize you aren't a gambler, you are an operator, and capital loves an operator.
Here is a psychological irony that rules the financial world. Money flows toward those who don't seem to need it and flees from those who do. Most people approach opportunities from a state of lack. They are looking for a save. They want the investor, the boss, or the client to be the solution to their problems. But this creates a subconscious signal known as the desperation reflex. When you are desperate, your time horizon shrinks. You stop thinking about the next 10 years and start obsessing over the next 10 days. To an investor, a short time horizon is a massive red flag. It suggests that you will make short-term survival decisions rather than long-term value decisions. If you need the money to pay your rent, you aren't going to be rational when the project hits a snag. You're going to be panicked. You are, by definition, uninvestable because your personal survival mind is in conflict with the project's growth mind. Here's the microshock. The most investable quality you can possess is the ability to walk away. This is what psychologists call high-agency indifference. It isn't that you don't care about the project, it's that your identity and your survival are not dependent on the other person's yes. When you stop looking for approval, you start projecting authority. You shift the dynamic from "please pick me" to "this is where the value is, decide if you want to be a part of it." We've been taught that we need to convince people to invest in us, but convincing is a low-status activity. The wealthy don't convince, they vet. They look for partners, not projects. If you are still in the phase of trying to prove your worth, you are inadvertently signaling that you don't yet believe in it yourself. The realization you need to have is this: an investment is a transaction of trust, not a charity for talent. Once you detach your self-worth from the net worth of the deal, your body language changes, your tone changes. You stop over-explaining. You stop filling the silence with nervous chatter. You become a static object in a world of variables. And it is only when you become static, reliable, calm, and indifferent to the rejection that the world finally decides you are safe enough to hold its capital.
There is a final, cold reality that exists long after the pitch is over and the Zoom call has ended. In the silence of that room, the person with the capital is asking themselves one question. If everything goes to hell tomorrow, is this the person I want to be in the foxhole with? They aren't asking if you're smart. They aren't asking if you're talented. They are asking if you are durable. Most people spend their entire lives trying to be interesting. They chase the latest trends, they adopt the latest lingo, and they try to project a version of success that they haven't yet earned. They think that by looking the part, they will eventually become the part. But wealth has a way of seeing through the costume. It has a sensory perception for fragility that you cannot hide with a better suit or a more polished deck. Take a long, honest look at your own history, the one you don't post on social media. Look at the projects you started but didn't finish. Look at the promises you made but didn't keep when things got too difficult. Look at the times you pivoted, not because the strategy was wrong, but because the pressure was too high. That is your investability signature. That is what the world is actually reading. If you don't like what it says, you don't need a better business idea. You need a more resilient character. You need to start making deposits into your Lindy record by finishing the small, boring things you've been ignoring. You need to become someone who is so predictable in their discipline that you become a safe haven for capital in a world of variables. The system isn't looking for the next genius. It's looking for the next survivor. The genius is a dime a dozen. The survivor is the rarest asset on the planet. So ask yourself, if you were the one holding the capital, would you bet on the person you are today, or would you wait for a version of you that has a few more scars and a lot less to prove? The answer to that question is the only thing standing between you and the life you claim you want.